Hi, my name is Rachel Powell. This is my teaching presentation. My presentation that I'm going to be having is called Let's Talk About Sex. It's about prevention practices and safe sex. My target audience that I am going for is going to be 8th to 12th grade high school and junior high students. Ideally, this would be presented during a science class or maybe a pull-out class at a high school at a time where they're already all there and you have them as a captive audience, ideally. The objectives I'm hoping to get out of this presentation and this teaching with them, they need to be able to identify the different risks of unprotected sex. If the students are going to have unprotected sex, they need to know what's possibly could happen to them. And from there, we need to make sure that we identify the different prevention practices that there are and be able to give them a chance to decide which prevention practice is best for them and give them a chance to justify their decision. All right, now is whenever I'm going to welcome everyone. Today we are going to have Let's Talk About Sex. Y'all are all junior high and high school students, and I can treat you like that. I'm going to treat you like teenagers and not like elementary kids. So the big elephant in the room right now is the word sex. It is okay to say it, I promise. So everyone get your giggles out now, make your jokes that you need to make, and everyone out loud on the count of 3 as loud as you can. I want you to yell sex. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. And now that we have that out of the way, we can actually get into the whole point of today, and it is that if y'all are mature enough to make the decision to have sex with someone else, then you need to be mature enough to have the knowledge and all of the tools to make the decision to also protect yourself. I know many people are going to try and say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have sex. There, it doesn't happen here. But the truth is, we all know that high school students and junior high students, many of them do make the choice to have sexual intercourse. This is a chart from 2011 from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention from the CDC. This is about from 9th through 12th grade students. The totals of how many actually had sexual intercourse at that point in time. Starting in 9th grade, 32.9% of the 9th grade students at that point in time had already had sex. In 12th grade, that number jumped all the way up to 63.1%. So obviously, high school students are making the choice to have sex. So we need to make sure that they have all the tools and all the knowledge to make the choice now to protect themselves and keep themselves safe. So what I want you to do is I need you to get into a few groups, and you're going to talk about what are possibly some of the risks of unprotected sex. We know these 3 that are mainly the ones that most people talk about, is unplanned pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, and sometimes the depression and emotional distress. What I want you to do is to get into some groups, and I want you to talk about what would happen if any of these had happened to you, how you would deal with them, and maybe if you didn't know about some of these, that could be an actual risk for it. Many people know about the first 2, unplanned pregnancy and STDs, but I don't know if any people have actually thought about the emotional distress or possibly depression that comes from unprotected sex. I'm going to give you about 5 to 7 minutes that you can get in groups, 3 to 5 people, preferably ones that you're comfortable talking with. And I want you to talk about the risks and maybe what would happen if one of these had happened to you and how you would actually be able to deal with it. At this point in time, I'd give them a few minutes to just talk amongst themselves, kind of listen, and if they're venturing off topic or not really doing anything, we'll call everybody back together and go through these. Once they get back together, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in what can happen with these risks and what would actually, what would be the implications of sometimes having unprotected sex. With unplanned pregnancies, high school and junior high kids need to realize that once you have a child, you have a whole nother life that is now needs to be put before yours. That means sometimes not getting to experience everything that you usually would as a high school student. Homecoming, prom, dates, all those other fun little things, football games, you may not be able to go to because you have to have a babysitter. You have to make sure you have a job so you can provide for your child. Sexually transmitted diseases are something that kids talk about in health class. They start to learn about them, but I don't know if it is enough for them to understand the implications of that. I'm going to have some handouts that I will be able to hand out to them that will have not only the descriptions of what would happen in the symptoms, but actually also pictures. They need to understand what comes along with these diseases. We always read about it, but when you actually see a picture of what could happen, they need to understand that that's what would happen, and it's incurable on some of these. Also, the emotional distress and depression that is possible from unprotected sex. We all know that high school kids can be mean. They can use terms that usually can hurt, and can hurt deep and go with you for a very long time in your life. A lot of times having sex, even just once, can get you a reputation that you don't necessarily want, but you now are marked with, and that can lead to a lot of distress and depression. So now, how can you protect yourself? I'm not going to stand up here and preach to everyone, but you do need to realize that the only foolproof way to protect yourself is to simply not to do it. It's just as simple as that. You have to remember that you can still get STDs from oral sex. When we talk about abstinence, we're not always just talking about intercourse, which is what a lot of people think it is. Again, you have to understand the consequences that could possibly happen if you do have sex, any type, and make that decision of what is best for you, for your partner, for your mental state, and everything else. The biggest thing with abstinence is that is the only way to protect yourself if you are truly abstinent. You have to remember that intercourse is not the only way to get STDs, to have that reputation that we talked about before, that you can still get that even if you've never had intercourse with someone. Another way to protect yourself is birth control. Birth control is 99% effective when you take it daily. It is very important that on these pills that you do take them daily. But there are some reasons that teens don't want to take the pill. So what I want to know from you, especially you girls, what are some of the reasons that some of y'all don't want to be on the pill? Is it the stereotype? A lot of times people talk about that you're going to gain weight if you're on birth control. So what I want to do is I want to hear from y'all. If you're comfortable with that, raise your hand and let's discuss some of the reasons that maybe you would not want to be on birth control. At this point in time, I'll give them a few minutes to talk about it. They can state their reasoning. Others can ask questions and just have a brief discussion on that. Alright guys, and here's the next one. Y'all are going to be able to have a little bit of fun with this. Everybody get your giggles out about that picture right there. Condoms. Condoms are 99% effective when they are used correctly. The biggest word on here that you need to remember is correctly. But how are you going to use it correctly? Because I don't think in the heat of the moment you're going to take out the package and make sure you read the directions and that everything happens right. So that's one thing that we are actually going to do today. Y'all are going to learn how to use a condom correctly. I want everyone to come up to the table. You're going to grab a banana, and please grab one of these condoms right here. At this point in time, I'm going to have the kids all go back to their desks, laughter and all, and they're going to have a banana and a condom, and they're going to learn how to literally put on a condom the correct way. Again, I think it's very important, especially with teenagers, to talk to them as bluntly and honestly as they need to hear things, because sometimes it's sugar-coated, sometimes they're talked down to. But if you just talk to them and give them respect, you're going to get it back from them, and I think that they would really, truly appreciate the blunt activity that we're having here of actually learning to put a condom on correctly, and the fact that it's on a banana. You have to be able to understand this is a teenage group and you need to connect with them, and sometimes the comedy of it, they're going to remember this. Once we have learned how to do this correctly on a banana, then we're going to talk about, what is the best prevention practice for you? How are you going to protect yourself? We've talked about 3 ways so far about the way you can protect yourself, 3 of the main ones. I want you to, again, get back into those groups you were in before, the ones that you're really comfortable talking about. I want you to talk amongst yourself. Everyone take a turn and say, what are you going to do to protect yourself? What is your choice to keep yourself safe and to practice safe sex? I want you to explain, to say what it is, and I want you to also be able to defend it. You need to be able to explain why you have chose this. Now that you have some knowledge, I want you to also help each other. Maybe if someone doesn't know for sure and they're in leeway, this is the whole point. This is, you're in a group that you're comfortable with, and I want y'all to talk about it, and then we'll come back together. I'll probably give you a little bit more time this time, probably about 7 to 10 minutes. And so y'all divide up, and you can talk about how are you going to protect yourself. At this point in time, I'll give them a little bit of time to talk about what they are going to do, because they have to have that decision already made. You can't make that decision once you're on the date in the heat of the moment. You have to know before you even go into this. And then from there, we'll come back together, do a little bit of an overview of what we had talked about, and get them, make sure they all have their materials. They're not taking their bananas with them. That would cause too much of a ruckus. And they will be dismissed. Here's my multiple intelligences slide and my reference slide. Thank you.